In our modern day and age, with the rise in popularity of booktube, bookstagram, and most recently BookTok, we got used to seeing people reading crazy amount of books each month and buying even more crazy amount of books regularly. But what many people do not realize is that reading is actually a privilege that countless people around the globe do not have for multiple reasons. First of all, accessibility. People, let's say from first world countries, grew up surrounded with books. I'm not talking here about rare cases, I'm talking about the common thing that I observed through the years. People from these countries got used to having bookstores at every corner, libraries at their schools, public libraries for every single residential area, with an access to any and every books in existence at the reach of their hand if they want to. But people from other countries, like from third world countries, they don't have that accessibility. I'll try to refrain mentioning any countries, but a lot of countries don't have bookshops for miles and miles. And people, when they have no access to books, they naturally won't read. And when you find a bookstore or a bookshop, they are most of the time located in big cities or in the capitals, and they are not cheap. I'm gonna talk about it later, but they are not cheap. And public libraries, it is not that common to have public libraries in other countries. I think it is more of an American thing that is slowly spreading to other countries, thank God, because imagine having to read as many books as you can and as you want for a small minimum fee. For example, in the city where I live in, Amman, there are not that much of libraries. I think the ones I'm aware of are like 5 near to me, and most of them are managed by the municipality, and they are filled with old books. Most of them are non-fiction or children books. They don't have the big of a collection for fiction readers, especially newer fiction. And the only library that I really like and has a decent collection of books that you can pick and choose from, and it has a variety of newer fiction books, it is like 30 minutes away from me if there is no traffic, and it doesn't make sense to pay the price of a book for taxis to go for a public library to borrow a book for free. At that point, I would rather buy myself a book. As for school libraries, not all public schools have them. One of the schools I studied in for the longest time had this one small library. It is like one room full of old and outdated books that will fall apart at any second if you touch them. I wasn't interested in reading any of the books in that library, and the librarian was very mean, so we just gave up the idea of borrowing books from that library because she will keep nagging us to return them. I also didn't have that much of a luck with my university library because it was one big room full of old books that are filled with dust. Yes, I made a lot of reading thanks to my college library, but they were all classic old books and university related books that all need to really be updated. They were all old. The newest book I found in my college library was from late 90s. But I heard of a lot of universities here have decent libraries, but I got a bad luck with the university I studied in. And also private schools for the rich have really good libraries too. And when I'm talking about accessibility here, I'm talking about accessibility in big cities. Don't even dream about any of that if you are in the countryside or in a village, because you won't find any bookstore in sight. Now let's talk about prices. Let's say you happen to live near a bookstore, or you found a bookstore near you. The prices of the books are crazy high, especially for English books. I rarely can find an English paperback for less than $15 US. You may be like, that sounds like a reasonable price for a book if you got a job like pays you thousands of dollars each month. But in this part of the world, like let's say you have a decent job that pays you $700 a month. And believe me or not, that's a good salary in a lot of places. Amazing salary in a lot of places. It will not make sense to spend fifth of your monthly income on buying books. I'm gonna be honest here and confess that sometimes I feel really frustrated seeing American people on booktube dropping like 200, 300 American dollar on one bookstore visit. I know it is their hard-earned money and they can spend it on whatever they want, whether it is on limited edition books or burn the money they have, but it is literally someone's monthly paycheck in a lot of countries around the world. And you may advise these people to just buy books from secondhand stores or to buy books online for very cheap, but let's not be delusional here. A lot of countries don't even have secondhand bookstores. Yeah, I know, there's only like one secondhand bookstore in the city I live in. I stopped even trying to buy books online because this website will tell you, we are sorry to inform you that we still don't ship to your country. Or the other website will tell you that they gonna ship you the book. The book is really cheap, like $10, but the shipping is like $40, $50. I'm not even joking. A lot of websites will ship to the country where I live in for 5 times the price of the book. The third thing that I'm gonna talk about is time. Not that many of people have the time to read as much as booktubers do. You will see hundreds of videos and articles telling you how to read more, how to have more time to read, how to prioritize reading. But a lot of people really don't have the time to do that. Numerous people spend like 9 to 12 hours a day on work. Then we have like, let's say 6 to 8 hours of sleep. Another like 3-4 hours of socializing with their family, with their friends, doing their house chores or taking care of their kids, family, spouses, pets. So they are not left with that many time to read, and not everyone can read at the same pace, 100 pages an hour. And let's be real here, sometimes we are just exhausted at the end of the day and we don't really want to do anything, let alone read a book. And last but not least, the fourth reason why I believe that reading is a privilege: the ability to read. Hundreds of millions of people around the world can't even read, whether they are illiterate or disabled, and 90% of them don't have the access to use audiobooks to do their reading. So we really need to acknowledge this privilege we have and not to exploit it. This is all lead to me talking about the debate of pirated books and shadow libraries online, because it is very common in the Middle East for readers to read books on their phones, pirated ebooks in PDF format, because as I said, physical books are hella expensive, and if you are an avid reader who reads tons of books each year, you will get bankrupt if you buy every single book you read in a physical format. That is why a lot of Middle Eastern readers are PDF readers, because they love reading too much. They can't give it up just because someone on the internet told them that it is illegal and immoral to read pirated books. There's even bookstores that sell pirated printed books for very cheap, like for $4 or $5 each, and they are very popular amongst readers because they are affordable. Yes, it is illegal. Yes, the authors aren't getting their share in sales, but readers just wanna read. When I have extra bucks on my hands, I go and buy a book that I want. I rarely buy pirated printed books because I prefer the quality of original, and I told myself I'm buying the book either way, let's just buy the original and pay some extra dollars on it. But I admit I'm guilty of reading pirated ebooks all the time. I've been doing it for years. I really love reading ebooks in EPUB format, and I'm really guilty of it. I admit it, but I can't stop. Do I feel guilty for not supporting the author? Yes, sometimes, but I think reading and loving the book is a kind of support somehow, and when I recommend it to other people, it is a support, and sometimes I end up actually buying the book if I loved it too much. But I can't just buy every single book I want to read to support the author, because I read on average like 100 books a year. It is like at least 1,100 extra dollar that I don't have to splurge on books to support most of the time extremely rich authors. As I said, I rather read the EPUB version of a book. If I loved it, I loved it. I recommend it to people. They may end up buying the book and reading it. I may end up buying the book myself to support the author and to reread it in the future. But I can't take the chance every time and buy a book I want to read, and a lot of the times I may end up hating it, and that's some money I just threw in the waste for a book that I ended up hating. You can't even imagine how many websites I use to read for free. I use YouTube and VK to read audiobooks. I use Z Library and Library Genesis for EPUB format. Your girl just wanna read, so stop shaming people from third world countries or from poor countries where they read pirated books, because oftentimes it is our only way of reading books, whether they are books that are in English and they are not in our bookstores, or because they are banned for some reason and we can't find them. So we always end up reading pirated books because oftentimes it is our only way of reading, and I'd rather read pirated books than not reading at all. So kindly stop judging and attacking people when you are enjoying your privilege without knowing that it is a privilege. That's it for today's discussion. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for it, but that's okay. I will see you next time. Bye!